Okay, so we are going to briefly talk about ecological tolerance. And ecological tolerance is essential when it comes to the health of ecosystems. So basically, ecological tolerance is different to each organism. So it's defined as the range of conditions that an organism can endure before injury or death. Basically, the range of conditions, mostly abiotic conditions such as temperature, salinity, pH, or sunlight. And then as those things change, good or bad, high or low, how long until organisms start seeing some sort of illness or, again, injury, and then eventually until they die. They Organisms have a range of tolerance for each environmental condition of their habitat. So they have a range of tolerance for temperature, for salinity, for pH, for sunlight. For example, salmon have a basic range of tolerance from 6 degrees to 22 degrees, but some allow them to survive outside of those conditions. So if you look at these different species, their range of temperature is different in each one. All right. So these are how well they survive. So when we look at all these different organisms, this is generally due to adaptations that they've made. And over time, they've evolved to have this biodiversity, which allows them to survive different environmental disturbances. Now, the temperature might be more resistant, but the pH might be the same. So, it's for each individual abiotic condition. So if you take a look at this graph, this is the zone of range of tolerance. So for example, in this center part where you see the species are generally thriving, this is called the optimum range. And some might even say the optimum range is actually a little bit more narrow than what this picture is showing you. But this is the optimum range where they're living their best life. They're having lots of babies. They have plenty of food, plenty of sunlight. Everything's great. They feel great. But the problem is those ecosystems don't always stay in that optimum range. So this area is called the zone of physiological stress. So that's where you start seeing like deaths of organisms, population decline. They don't have as many babies. And then the zone of intolerance is obviously where they cannot survive. They're not living there. So the tolerance range is the zone of physiological stress through the optimum range on both sides. And then their optimum range is like, that's perfection. That's where they're living their very best life. Which I said all of these things, but you have to copy them down. So I'm going to give you a minute as I click on stuff. So that zone of intolerance is where you're going to see organisms like die. All right. So just a quick, unrelated to the ecological tolerance, because this is a short section, and I'll make the video short. Trust me, I promise I'm not gonna drone on and on. Some tips on writing FRQs. So this unit, you're gonna be doing a take-home test. So make sure that you are connecting the activities to their ecological tolerance. So if you're saying human activities are impacting the organisms, it explains specifically how are they impacting the organisms. If you can connect that to a shift in climate or environmental change, make sure that you are being specific when you're answering those questions. Don't just say has a negative impact on organisms. It has a negative impact on organisms because it alters the pH of the ecosystem, or has a negative impact on organisms because it's releasing CO2, which leads to climate change. Climate change can impact the ecological tolerance of species. Ecological tolerance is a great term to use when you're not exactly sure why a species is like dying, but you could just say like there's a change in the environment that's outside of their ecological tolerance. So it's important to do that. Also, try to connect it to a specific type of physiological stress. So it's causing suffocation, or there's not enough oxygen or food or nutrients. If there's not enough sunlight, then there would be less photosynthesis happening. So all of these things, you want to make sure you're connecting them to ecological stress, ecological tolerance, and then specifically what's happening to those organisms. The more specific you are, the more it sounds like you know what you're talking about, and the less that you're talking out of your butt. So here is a reading practice. So I'm going to encourage you to pause here, read this, and then identify the author's claim. So tell me what you think the author is trying to portray here. What are they trying to tell you? What do they want you to know? Okay, so think about that. Jot it down at the bottom of your notes sheet. It's important that you can read through text and identify important information. So make sure that you do that. That's all for today. My advice for you today, because I haven't made a video in a little while, so I gotta give you some advice. My advice for today is don't sweat the small stuff. And I know that's like very cliche, but you can only worry about the things that you can control. Okay. So you can't worry about other people's actions or other people's reactions. You can only worry about what you can control. So keep that in mind. It's a good life lesson. Have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow.